There are four of us sitting in Good Time Charlie Bernstein's little joint in 48th Street one Tuesday morning about 4 o'clock, doing a bit of quartet singing, very low, so as not to disturb the copper on the beat outside. A very good guy by the name of Carrigan who likes to get his rest at such an hour. Good Time Charlie's little joint is called the Crystal Room, although of course there is no crystal whatever in the room, but only 12 tables and 12 hostesses, because Good Time Charlie believes in his customers having plenty of social life. So, he has one hostess to a table, and if there are 12 different customers, which is very seldom, each customer has a hostess to talk with. And if there is only one customer, he has all 12 hostesses to gab with and buy drinks for, and no customer can ever go away claiming he is lonesome in Good Time Charlie's. Personally, I will not give you a nickel to talk with Good Time Charlie's hostesses one at a time or all together, because none of them are anything much to look at. And I figure they must all be pretty dumb, or they will not be working as hostesses in Good Time Charlie's little joint. I happened to speak of this to Good Time Charlie, and he admits that I may be right. But he says it is very difficult to get any Peggy Joyces for 25 pops per week. Of course, I never buy any drinks in Good Time Charlie's for hostesses or anybody else, and especially for myself, because I am a personal friend of Good Time Charlie's, and he will not sell me any drinks even if I wish to buy any, which is unlikely, as Good Time Charlie figures that anybody who buys drinks in his place is apt to drink these drinks, and Charlie does not care to see any of his personal friends drinking drinks at his place. If one of his personal friends wishes to buy a drink, Charlie always sends him to Jack Fogarty's little speak down the street, and in fact, Charlie will generally go with him. So, I only go to Good Time Charlie's to talk with him and to sing in quartet with him. There are very seldom any customers in Good Time Charlie's until along about 5 o'clock in the morning, after all the other places are closed, and then it is sometimes a very hot spot indeed. And it is no place to sing in quartet at such hours, because everybody around always wishes to join in, and it ruins the harmony. But just before 5 o'clock, it is okay, as only the hostesses are there, and of course, none of them dares to join in our singing, or Good Time Charlie will run them plumb out of the joint. If there is one thing I love to do more than anything else, it is to sing in quartet. I sing baritone, and I wish to say I sing a very fine baritone at that. And what we are singing this morning I'm talking about is a lot of songs such as Little White Lies and The Old Oaken Bucket and My Dad's Dinner Pail and Chloe and Melancholy Baby, and I do not know what else, including Home Sweet Home. Although we do not do so good on this because nobody remembers all the words. And half the time we are all just going ho hum 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 ho hum, just like guys always nearly do when they are singing Home Sweet Home. Also we sing I Can't Give You Anything But Love, Baby, which is a very fine song for quartet singing, especially when you have a guy singing a nice bass such as Good Time Charlie, who can come in on every line with a big boom boom like this. I can't give you anything but love, baby, boom boom. I am the one who holds these last words such as love and baby, and you can hear my fine baritone very far indeed, especially when I give a little extra roll like baby. Then when Good Time Charlie comes in with his old boom boom, it is worth going a long way to hear. Well, naturally we finally get around to torch songs, as guys who are singing in quartet are bound to do, especially at 4 o'clock in the morning. A torch song being a song which guys sing when they have the big burnt-up feeling inside themselves over a battle with their dolls. When a guy has a battle with his doll, such as his sweetheart or even his ever-loving wife, he certainly feels burnt up inside himself and can scarcely think of anything much. In fact, I know guys who are carrying the torch to walk 10 miles and never know they go an inch. It is surprising how much ground a guy can cover just walking around and about, wondering if his doll is out with some other guy. And everybody knows that at 4 o'clock in the morning the torch is hotter than at any other time of the day. Good Time Charlie, who is carrying a torch longer than anybody else on Broadway, which is nearly a year, or ever since his doll Big Marge gives him the wind for a rich Cuban, starts up a torch song by Tommy Lyman, which goes as follows, very, very slow and sad. Gee, but it's tough when the gang's gone home. Out on the corner you stand alone. Of course, there is no spot in this song for Good Time Charlie's Boom Boom, but it gives me a great chance with my fine baritone, especially when I come to the line that says, gee, I wish I had my old gal back again. I do not say I can make people bust out crying and give me money with this song, like I see Tommy Lyman do in nightclubs, but then Tommy is a professional singer, besides writing this song for himself, so naturally he figures to do a little better with it than me. But I wish to say it is nothing for me to make 5 or 6 of the hostesses in Good Time Charlie's cry all over the joint when I hit this line about, gee, I wish I had my old gal back again, and making 5 or 6 hostesses out of 12 cry is a fair average anywhere, and especially Good Time Charlie's hostesses. Well, all of a sudden, who comes popping into Good Time Charlie's by way of the front door, looking here and there roundabout, but Jack of Hearts, and he no sooner pokes his schnozzle into the joint than a guy by the name of Louis the Lug, who is singing a very fair tenor with us, jumps up and heads for the back door. But just as he gets to the door, Jack of Hearts outs with his old equalizer and goes wangity-wang-wang at Louis the Lug. As a general proposition, Jack of Hearts is a fair kind of shot, but all he does to Louis the Lug is to knock his right ear off. Right off. Then Louis gets the door open and takes it on the lam through an areaway, but not before Jack of Hearts gets one more crack at him, and it is this last crack which brings Louis down half an hour later on Broadway, where a copper finds him and sends him to the polyclinic. Personally, I do not see Louis' ear knocked off, because by the second shot I am out the front door and on my way down 48th Street, but they tell me about it afterwards. I never know Jack of Hearts is even mad at Louis, and I am wondering why he takes these shots at him. But I do not ask any questions, because when a guy goes around asking questions in this town, people may get the idea he is such a guy as wishes to find things out. The next night, I run into Jack of Hearts in Bobby's Chop House, putting on the hot meat, and he asks me to sit down and eat with him. So I sit down and I order a hamburger with plenty of onions, and while I'm sitting there waiting for my hamburger, Jack of Hearts says to me like this, "I suppose," he says, "I owe you guys an apology for busting up your quartet when I tossed those slugs at Louis the Lug, huh?" "Well," I say, "some considers it a dirty trick at that, Jack, but I figure you have a good reason, although I am wondering what it is." "Louis the Lug is no good," Jack says. Well, of course, I know this much already, and so does everybody else in town for that matter. But I cannot figure what it has to do with Jack shooting off ears in this town for such a reason. Or by and by there will be very few people left with ears. "Let me tell you about Louis the Lug," Jack of Hearts says. "You will see at once that my only mistake is I do not get my shots an inch to the left. I do not know what is the matter with me lately." "Maybe you were letting go too quick," I say, very sympathetic, because I know how it annoys him to blow easy shots. "Maybe," he says. "Anyway, the light in Charlie's dump is no good. It is only an accident I get Louis with the last shot, and it's very sloppy work all around. But now I tell you about Louis the Lug. It is back in 1924, Jack of Hearts says, that I go to St Pierre for the first time to look after some business matters for John the Boss, rest his soul, who is at this time one of the largest operators in high-grade merchandise in the United States, especially when it comes to scotch. Maybe you remember John the Boss and the heat which develops around and about when he is scragged in Detroit? John the Boss is a very fine character, and it is a terrible blow to many citizens when he is scragged. Now, if you are never in St Pierre, I wish to say you miss nothing much. because what it is but a little square of a boy sort of huddled up alongside some big rocks off Newfoundland, and very hard to get to any way you go. Mostly you go there from Halifax by boat, though personally I go there in 1924 in John the Boss's schooner by the name of the Maud, in which we load 1,000 cases of very nice merchandise for the Christmas trade. The first time I see St Pierre, I will not give you 8 cents for the whole layout, although of course it is a very useful place for parties in our line of business. It does not look like much, and it belongs to France, and nearly all of the citizens speak French because most of them are French. And it seems it is the custom of the French people to speak French no matter where they are, even way off yonder, up among the fish. Well, anyways, it is on this trip to St Pierre in 1924 that I meet an old guy by the name of Dr. Armand Dorval for what happens to me, but I catch pneumonia. And it looks as if maybe I am a gone gosling, especially there is no place in St Pierre where a guy can have pneumonia with any comfort. But this Dr. Armand Dorval is a friend of John the Boss, and he takes me into his house and lets me be as sick there as I please, while he does his best to doctor me up. Now, this Dr. Armand Dorval is an old Frenchman with whiskers, and he has a little granddaughter by the name of Lily, who was maybe 12 years old at the time I'm talking about, with hair hanging down her back in 2 braids. It seems her papa, who is Dr. Armand's son, goes out one day looking for cod on the Grand Banks when Lily is nothing but a baby and never comes back. And then her mama dies, so old Doc raises up Lily and is very fond of her indeed. They live alone in the house where I am sick with this pneumonia, and it is a nice, quiet little house and very old-fashioned, with a good view of the fishing boats, if you care for fishing boats. In fact, it is the quietest place I am ever in my life, and the only place I ever know any real peace. A big fat doll who does not talk English comes in every day to look after things for Dr. Armand and Lily, because it seems Lily is not old enough to keep houses yet, although she makes quite a noise for me. Lily talks English very good, and she is always bringing me things and sitting by my bed and chewing the rag with me about this and that, and sometimes she reads to me out of a book which is called Alice in Wonderland, which is nothing but a pack of lies, but very interesting in spots. Furthermore, Lily has a big blonde dumb-looking doll by the name of Yvonne, which she makes me hold while she's reading to me. Now, I'm very glad indeed that the Maud goes on back up to the United States, and there is no danger of any of the guys walking in on me while I'm holding this doll, or they will think I blow my topper. Finally, when I'm able to sit up around the house of an evening, I play checkers with Lily, while old Dr. Armand Dorval sits back in a rocking chair, smoking a pipe and watching us. And sometimes I sing for her. I wish to say I sing a first-class tenor. And when I'm in the war business in France with the 77th Division, I'm always in great demand for singing a quartet. So I sing such songs to Lily as There's a Long, Long Trail and Mademoiselle from Armentières. Although, of course, when it comes to certain spots in this song, I just go dum, dum, dum-de-dum and do not say the words right out. By and by, Lily gets to singing with me, and we sound very good together, especially when we sing the Long, Long Trail, which Lily likes very much. And even old Dr. Armand joins in now and then, although his voice is very terrible. Anyway, Lily and me and the Dr. Armand become very good pals indeed. And what is more, I meet up with other citizens of St. Pierre and become friends with them, and they are by no means bad people to know. And it is certainly nice to be able to walk up and down without being afraid of every other guy you meet who's going to chuck a slug at you, or a copper put the old sleeve on you and say that they wish to see you with headquarters. Finally, I get rid of this pneumonia and take the boat back to Halifax. And I am greatly surprised to find that Dr. Armand and Lily are very sorry to see me go. Because never before in my life do I leave a place where anybody is sorry to see me go. But Dr. Armand seems very sad. He shakes me by the hand over and over again. And what does Lily do but bust out crying? And the first thing I know, I am feeling sad myself and wishing that I am not going. So I promised Dr. Armand I will come back some day to see him. And then Lily hauls off and gives me a big kiss right in the smush. And this astonishes me so much that it is half an hour afterwards before I think to wipe it off. Well, For the next few months I find myself pretty busy back in New York, what with one thing and another, and I do not have time to think much of Dr. Armand Dorval and Lily and St. Pierre, but it comes along the summer of 1925, and I'm all tired out from getting a slug in my chest in a run-in with Jerk Donovan's mob in Jersey, for I am now in beer and have no more truck with the boats. But I get to thinking of St. Pierre and the quiet little house of Dr. Armand Dorval again, and how peaceful it is up there. And nothing will do but I must pop off to Halifax, and pretty soon I am in St. Pierre once more. I take a raft of things for Lily with me, such as dolls and handkerchiefs and perfume and a phonograph, and also a set of razors for Dr. Armand, although afterwards I am sorry I take these razors because I remember the old doc does not shave and may take them as a hint I do not care for his whiskers. But, as it turns out, the doc finds them very useful in operations, so the razors are a nice gift after all. Well, I spent 2 peaceful weeks there again, walking up and down in the daytime and playing checkers and singing with Lily in the evening, and it's real tough, tearing myself away, especially if Dr. Armand Dorval looks very sad again, and Lily busts out crying louder than before. So nearly every year after this, I can hardly wait until I get to St. Pierre for a vacation, and Dr. Armand Dorval's house is like my home, only a little more peaceful. Now, in the summer of 1928, I am in Halifax on my way to St. Pierre when I run across Louis the Lug. And it seems Louis is a lamister out of Detroit on account of some job or other, and is broke, and does not know which way to turn. Personally, I always figure Louis is a petty larceny kind of guy, with no more moxie than a canary bird, but he always dresses well, and always has a fair line of guff, and some guys stand for him. Anyway, here he is in trouble, so what happens but I take him with me to St. Pierre, figuring he can lay dead there until things blow over. Well, Lily and old Dr. Armand Dorval are certainly glad to see me, and I am just as glad to see them, especially Lily, for she is now maybe 16 years old and as pretty a doll as ever steps in shoe leather. And what with the long black hair and her big black eyes and $1 million worth of personality. Furthermore, by this time she swings a very mean skillet indeed and gets me up some very tasty fodder out of fish and one thing and another. But somehow things are not like they used to be at St. Pierre with this guy Louis the Lug around. Because he does not care for the place whatever, and goes roaming about very restless and making cracks about the citizens, and especially the dolls, until one night I am compelled to tell him to keep his trap closed, although at that the dolls in St. Pierre outside of Lily are no such lookers as will get Ziegfeld heated up. But even in the time when St. Pierre is headquarters for many citizens of the United States who are in the business of handling merchandise out of there, it is always sort of underhand that such citizens will never have any truck with the dolls at St. Pierre. This is partly because the dolls at St. Pierre never give the citizens of the United States a tumble, but more because we do not wish to get in any trouble around here, and if there is anything apt to cause trouble, it is dolls. Now, I suppose if I have any brains, I will see that Louis is playing the warm for Lily, but I never think of Lily as anything but a little doll with her hair in braids, and certainly not a doll such as a guy will start pitching to, especially a guy who calls himself one of the mob. I notice Louis is always talking to Lily when he gets a chance, and sometimes he goes walking up and down with him. But I see nothing in this because, after all, any guy is apt to get lonesome at St. Pierre and go walking up and down with anybody, even a little young doll. In fact, I never see Louis do anything that strikes me out of line, except he tries to cut in on the singing between Lily and me until I tell him 1 tenor at a time is enough in any singing combination. Personally, I consider Louis the Lug's tenor very flat indeed. Well, it comes time for me to go away, and I take Louis with me because I do not wish him hanging around St. Pierre alone, especially as old Dr. Armand Dorval does not seem to care for him whatever. And while Lily seems as sad as ever to see me go, I notice that for the first time she does not kiss me goodbye. But I figure this is fair enough, as she is now quite a young lady, and the chances are a little particular about who she kisses. I leave Louis in Halifax and give him enough dough to go on to Denver, which is where he says he wishes to go, and I never see him again until the other night in Good Time Charlie's. But almost a year later, when I happen to be in Montreal, I hear of him. I'm standing in the lobby of the Mount Royal Hotel thinking of not much, when a guy by the name of Bob the Bookie, who was a hustler around the racetracks, gets to talking to me and mentions Louis's name. It brings back to me a memory of my last trip to St. Pierre, and I get to thinking that this is the longest stretch I ever go in several years without a visit there, and of the different things that keep me from going. I'm not paying much attention to what Bob says because he is putting the blast on Louis for running away from an ever-loving wife and a couple of kids in Cleveland several years before, which is something I do not know about Louis at that. Then I hear Bob saying like this, "He's an awful rat, any way you take him. Why, when he hops out of here 2 weeks ago, he leaves a little doll he brings with him from St. Pierre dying in a hospital without a nickel to her name. It is a sin and a shame." "Wait a minute, Bob," I say, waking up all of a sudden. "Do you say a doll from St. Pierre? What for looking kind of a doll, Bob?" I say. "Why," Bob says, "she is black-haired and very young, and he calls her Lily or some such. He's knocking around Canada with her for quite a spell. She strikes me as a TB, but Louis' dolls always look this way after he has them a while. I judge," Bob says, "that Louis does not feed them any too good." Well, it is Lily Dorval, all right, but never do I see such a change in anybody as there is in this poor little doll. I find her lying on a bed in a charity ward in a Montreal hospital. She does not look to weigh more than 50 pounds, and her black eyes are sunk away back in her head, and she is in tough shape generally. But she knows me right off the bat and tries to smile at me. Now, I'm in the money very good at this time, and I have Lily moved into a private room and get her all the noises the law allows and the best croakers in Montreal and flowers and one thing and another. But one of the medicos tells me it is even money she will not last 3 weeks, and 7 to 5 she does not go a month. Finally, Lily tells me what happens, which is the same thing that happens to 1,000,000 dolls before and will happen to 1,000,000 dolls again. Louis never leaves Halifax, but cons her into coming over there to him, and she goes because she loves him. For this is the way dolls are, and personally, I will never have them any other way. But, Lily whispers to me, the bad thing I do is to tell poor old grandfather I'm going to meet you, Jack of Hearts, and marry you because I know he does not like Louis and will never allow me to go to him. But he loves you, Jack of Hearts, and he is so pleased in thinking you are to be his son. It is wrong to tell grandfather this story and wrong to use your name and to keep writing him all this time, making him think I am your wife and with you. But I love Louis, and I wish grandfather to be happy because he is very, very old. Do you understand, Jack of Hearts?" Now, of course, this is all very surprising news to me. Indeed, and in fact, I am quite flabbergasted, and as for understanding it, all I understand is she gets a rotten deal from Louis the Lug, and that old Dr. Armand Dorval is going to be all busted up if he hears what really happens. And thinking about this nice old man and thinking how the only place I ever know peace and quiet is now ruined, I am very angry with Louis the Lug. But this is something to be taken up later. So I dismiss him from my mind and go out and get me a marriage license and a priest and have this priest marry me to Lily Dorval just 2 days before she looks up at me for the last time and smiles a little smile and then closes her eyes for good and all. I wish to say, however, that up to this time I have no more idea of getting myself a wife than I have of jumping out of the window, which is practically no idea at all. I take her body back to St. Pierre myself in person, and we bury her in a little cemetery there with a big fog around and about and the siren moaning away very sad, and old Dr. Armand Dorval whispers to me like this: "You will please sing the song about the long trail, Jack of Hearts." So I stand there in the fog, chances are looking like a big sap. And I sing as follows. There's a long, long trail a-winding into the land of my dreams, where the nightingale is singing and the white moon beams. But I can get no farther than this, for something comes up in my throat, and I sit down by the grave of Mrs. Jack of Hearts, who was Lily Dorval, and for the first time I remember, I bust out crying. So, he says, this is why I say Louis the Lug is no good. Well, I am sitting there thinking that Jack of Hearts is right about Louis at that, when in comes Jack's chauffeur, a guy by the name of Fingers, and he steps up to Jack and says very low, Louis dies half an hour ago at the polyclinic. What does he say before he goes? Jack asks. Not a peep, Fingers says. Well, Jack of Hearts says, it is sloppy work at that. I ought to get him the first crack. But maybe he had a chance to think a little of Lily Dorval. Then he turns to me and he says like this, you guys need not feel bad about losing your tenor because, he says, I will be glad to fill in for him at all times. Personally, I do not think Jack's tenor is as good as Louis the Lug's, especially when it comes to hitting the very high notes in such songs as Sweet Adeline, because he does not hold them long enough to let Good Time Charlie in with his boom boom. But of course, this does not go if Jack of Hearts hears it, as I am never sure he does not clip Louis the Lug just to get a place in our quartet at that.